Welcome back to the Grind, Sleep, Repeat podcast. Today, we are going to teach you all the tips and tricks to become a better and faster runner.
So before we hop into today's podcast, I want to let you guys know about our special promo that we have going on. So this is a limited time offer. This week, we are doing a free greens with the purchase of a tub of our protein. So basically a buy one, get one free sale. If you haven't had a chance to try our greens yet, gives you more than 5 servings of leafy green vegetables. And then our protein has 24 grams of protein, has only 7 ingredients, 0 grams of added sugar. So give it a shot. If there's ever been a time to try it out, now is the time. Head over to fitgrindformula.com. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, I'll leave the link in the comments and description below. Go check out this deal. Like I said, this is a limited offer. Buy a tub of protein, get a free tub of greens.
Welcome back to the Grind, Sleep, Repeat podcast. Today, we are going to teach you all the tips and tricks to become a better and faster runner.
Yes, this is going to be a good one. We talk a lot about strength training. We've talked about diet the last couple weeks. Today, we're talking about speed. If you got a need for speed, if you're trying to get faster at running, these are some of the workouts that we've done to accomplish that goal. And training this hybrid style where we're mixing strength training and running, we still advocate that you should still strength train. It's going to be the foundation of any hybrid training program. But these are specific workouts that you can implement. We'll tell you how to implement them, when to implement them, and what to do so you can get faster as a runner. You know, train in this style like we want to train for performance. We want to get faster. We want to get better. And we're going to talk about exactly how to do that today.
Yeah, so if you are new to introducing speed and you want to get stronger into your program, let's talk about how many times a week you should be doing that and how long, how often. Let's just start by diving into all of that.
Yeah, this is a tricky part where if you're like, hey, I want to become a faster runner, and then all of your workouts just become speed workouts. We highly advise against that. We've even made some of those mistakes and played around with ourselves where if you do too many of these style of workouts, it's really hard to recover from, and these little nagging injuries start to pop up. So what we typically recommend is having at least one of these faster speed type workouts in your training per week. Start there, assess your tolerance, and then as you progress, you can always add more, but most of your training should still be done at that slow aerobic pace. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We just want to highlight that don't do each of these different styles every single day or every other day. You want to do these once a week, and then maybe as you build some tolerance, you can increase the frequency that you do these speed workouts.
Yeah, so the speed workouts are going to be shorter than the distance workouts, obviously. So when we are doing a speed workout, we typically will do it either on a day where we're working out, just because it's a shorter, or lifting, on a day that we're lifting, because it is a shorter session. And then those longer runs, we try to just have those by themselves without a weight training day, because those can take hours if you pair a weight training and a long run together. So for starters, if you're doing 2 days a week of running like we are, you're doing 1 day of speed work and then 1 day of long distance running. Save that long distance running for a day of its own. Or if you're able to, put the long run at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day and break up the workout in the afternoon or in the morning, and vice versa. But if you're doing that speed workout, the best way to do it is after a weight training session, or you could do it before your weight training session. But typically I tell people to get through the weight training session first and then save the speed work for the end of the workout.
Yeah, and depending on your goal, maybe you're training for an endurance race. It might be on a day of its own where like, okay, the focus in my program right now is running, or whatever you're signing up for, the endurance event. That's your primary focus. So you're trying to get faster. It might be on a separate day. So
yeah, this
right
is
now,
just hybrid.
Right now our program has more emphasis on strength training, like we've mentioned. Your program might look very different from ours, but the main takeaway is make sure that you are doing your strength training before you're running, if you're combining them together. And then also these workouts should not be done super frequently. Like once a week, start there. Mm-hmm. I would not start with 2 or 3 times a week of speed workouts.
And they're not super long.
Yes, they won't be super, super long. The idea is to get your legs used to turning over faster, to improve your anaerobic energy system, And that's going to help you become a more efficient runner and get more comfortable with those faster speeds. So let's hop into our first style of running that we've implemented that has really helped with us getting faster.
Yeah. One of them that I personally like is the Fartlek training style.
Yes.
So this one is going to be a little bit longer. So like we talked about speed work being a shorter duration. The Fartlek training is going to be more of the longer style. So for example, you could do 2 minutes where you're doing a slow jog, and then you could do 2 minutes where you're at pace of whatever pace that is, your goal pace. Let's say you have a goal pace for your half marathon, or even if you're doing a 5K, 10K, running at that goal pace. And then 2 minutes later, you're bringing that pace back down to a slow jog where you're bringing that heart rate down and able to recover. That way you can get back into that pace that you're trying to eventually hold. So the idea of that is to get comfortable at that pace that is challenging, and then eventually that will get easier.
Yeah, this is a must if you were trying to become a more efficient runner and a faster runner. Mm-hmm. And this is really good to use. Yes, maybe you don't have an endurance event, but it's really good to use if you have an endurance event, you have a date set, you have a goal set, because you're going to be able to set the goal pace, use either slightly above or at goal pace for those high intensity on intervals. And this is different because usually when you're doing intervals, maybe you run a minute, you walk a minute, or you run the straights, you walk the curves type of thing. This style, you're continuously running. So it helps you build a little endurance, and it also helps you have the ability to toggle back and forth between two different speeds.
And
recover. Yes. Like if you say you're going in a race or you go out on a run and you just start a little too hot, if you're able to recover at a slower pace where you just pull it back instead of having to walk, that's such a valuable tool. And this style really helps with that. You can get really creative with this. You can do, the sky's really the limit. There's nothing that says it has to be equal work to equal rest. Like Alyssa gave that example of 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. That's a great place to start. As you progress, you can start to increase that duration of the higher intensity interval. So just say, for example, here, just to keep this super simple, say your goal pace was a 10-minute mile pace. And that was going to be your fast pace. Your Fartlek style of the faster pace would be a 10-minute mile pace. Like I said, just pure example here. And then say you're getting comfortable with 2 minute on intervals, and your slower pace is 12-minute pace. Then as you start to get better at that, more comfortable with that, you can start to increase to 3 minutes at that 10-minute pace, 4 minutes at that 10-minute pace. And before you know it, that 10-minute pace is getting a lot easier. You're more comfortable with it, and you can start to throttle down to maybe 9:30, 9:15, 9 minutes. And this helps you get used to that leg turnover, and it really helps you build out endurance. This is probably one of the styles that has really helped the most as far as like building out endurance and getting comfortable at those faster speeds.
Yeah, and bringing that heart rate down, like we said, is what's going to help you recover and be able to catch your breath. So,
Yep.
And this kind of keeps me like constantly, I like to be stimulated constantly.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of keeping, you can set it up on your watch, but it's always kind of keeping you like focused on something. Okay, I got to get through these 2 minutes and then the next 2 minutes. Instead of in a longer run, you're like, okay, I got 5 miles,
Yeah.
1 down, 4 to go,
Yep.
This type of training, it's a little more fun, and it changes things up a little bit too.
Yeah, it's mentally stimulating.
Yeah.
I like to do it on the treadmill a lot because I can see really specific paces. The grade is going to stay the same.
Yeah.
You can do this outside. I would just try to pick a flat route, or as flat as
Agreed.
possible, because those hills are really going to start to mess you up. But at any race, you're going to have hills. So if there's a couple of hills here and there, it's not the end of the world. Just try and stick to a flatter route. It can be done outside or inside. But Fartlek intervals, number one, give that a shot. If you have questions, like you said, you can let us know in the comment section below, and we'd be happy to help out any way we can with structuring that. But it is a must try that you have to do that is going to make a huge difference in your ability to run faster for longer. The second style that we've used a lot is heading to the track and doing repeat style workouts, doing 800-meter repeats, doing 400-meter repeats, doing some 1,200-meter repeats, doing 200-meter repeats. Like, not necessarily like a 100-meter sprint, everything that you got. Yeah, that's going to help you get used to leg turnover. But the idea with this style workout is you're practicing above pace, so faster than you would normally run for your goal pace, and it gets you comfortable at running those goal pace workouts.
Yep.
This is not for the faint of heart. These are tough, and we'll tell you how to structure this. And again, this is a higher intensity workout that you're only going to want to start with one time a week. As you progress and get advanced, you can do more of this, but one time a week is a great place to start with these style of workouts.
Yeah, and in between those meter repeats is where you're like walking, like you're resting in between those. So you're really giving a extreme energy output during that sprint, and then you're allowing yourself to come back down and recover. One of the track workouts that we did was 800 meter repeats and then 400 meter repeats, and in between those you're resting, bringing that heart rate down like I said, and then allowing yourself to try to keep that intensity going the whole time. So if, for instance, your 800 meters is 2 minutes and 30 seconds for just pure example, you want to try to keep that, if not beat that on the next one.
Yeah, the goal is consistency here. So again, as you know, when you're structuring a program, just like a strength training program, like we're going to increase volume over time. Maybe you start with like 2 or 3 800 meter repeats and 2 or 3 400 meter repeats. You figure out what you can run that 800 meters in based off of rough estimates. You go test it. But then again, like Alyssa said, you want to have consistency with this. You don't want to run 800 meters as hard as you can on the first one, and then you're absolutely gassed on round 2, round 3, and then you got to go do 400 meter repeats. The goal is you're running faster than your goal pace, but it's not a dead sprint, and you repeat that. And where the money with this really is the replication, but then also the rest time. If you can really dial in your rest time, that's going to help you develop those anaerobic adaptations that you're looking to see and become more efficient, increase your VO2 max and just the heart strength. So typically what we would do between 800 meter repeats is no more than like a minute 15, minute 30. This is also a factor that can get manipulated too. Like as you progress, this is a good way that you can say, okay, today I'm only going to take a minute rest or 45 seconds rest. And you're challenging your body in a new and different way. So that's really to show you that the sky is the limit. Like when you're trying to become a faster runner, it's just like when we go to the gym and we strength train, we're always looking to how can I place some sort of stimulus on the muscle that's different than it did last time. Maybe that's you're going to run faster, you're going to add some volume, you're going to decrease your rest time. There's a lot of ways that you can do that. And track workouts are a good example of this because you can manipulate so many different factors and progress it from week to week so that you're actually getting better.
Yeah, this is something you definitely want to keep track of.
Yes.
Your times. And so like in our notes on our phone, we would just write down like what our times were. And I know that can be challenging if you don't have a watch. So the nice thing is on our Garmin watches, you can go in and create a workout. And that will also like tell you when your 800 meters is up, and then it'll tell you to rest, and you can go ahead and go in there and set like, I want to rest a minute, and then you have a minute on your watch.
Such a lifesaver.
Yeah, and it'll just kind of buzz at you, let you know when time's up or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that was like lifesaver. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get set up, but once you set that up, it is so helpful in the long run. And then on top of that, keeping track of your times so that you're seeing if you're progressing. Because if you're not progressing, then we got to figure out, why are we not progressing? Are we recovering properly? Are we doing too much? So always keep track of that stuff, not even just the track workouts, the workouts in general.
So the third one that we've used a lot, and this kind of last one that we'll talk about, is tempo workouts, tempo training. And this is going to be used a lot in like a race prep, where our last half marathon, the goal with this is to practice your goal pace and get more volume and get more practice at that pace, because it's going to feel uncomfortable, especially if you're trying to PR. Say you ran a race in an hour and then you're trying to shave off even like 2 minutes.
Doesn't seem like much.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but that's a lot to shave off.
Yeah.
So the big thing with this and with tempo style workouts is you're getting practice at your pace or maybe slightly above goal pace. And this is something that we use pretty heavily, especially towards the end of the block of our training when we're getting closer to that race, so that we can assess where we are, if we're ready, if this goal is going to be a good goal, or if we're not in shape enough to reach that goal.
Yeah, there was like some runs around the lake where we would do our mile pace that we wanted to be at. And then the next mile, we would slow that back down. And then we'd go back to the next mile.
Mile repeats, yep.
Yeah, do, every other mile. And you can kind of gauge from there, see how you're feeling, see if that's a comfortable pace for you too. And then as you get closer to race day, you might have to make some tweaks from there. But combining all of these different tools is what's going to give you the best outcome. So that's why we're giving you all these different tools so that you can create a program using all of these tools to help get you to that goal race pace.
Yeah, and with this style, you can start with mile repeats. Say you're doing a 6-mile run, just pure example here. Maybe mile 1 is a warm-up mile. Mile 2 is going to be a faster mile. Mile 3 is a slow mile. Mile 4 is a fast mile. 5 is a slow mile. 6 is a fast mile. Like, that's a way that you could set it up. You could also do mile repeats where you're doing like a 800-meter jog in between as your recovery, and then you repeat that mile. You could do more than a mile. You could do 1.5 miles or 2 miles at goal pace. Like,
as
again,
it gets easier.
There's so many variables that you can manipulate here, and we just want to give you the basics. You can go try these out or ask questions if you have any and see what you like or see what you don't like. But these are 3 really good styles that we've used to become faster as runners. And I think that's what I love about this style is you can have performance-based goals, and that gives you a purpose to train for. And say that you are, so like for our goal right now is to build strength, build muscle, and that's kind of more priority, but we're still running. We can focus on that for a while, for a chunk of time. And then, when spring comes around, I'm sure we'll sign up for a race or we'll set some sort of distance goal and we increase the running volume a little bit, and that's something else that we can focus on. Or no matter what the goal is, you always have something that you're working towards, and I think that gives you purpose when you come into the gym. And that's really why I love training in this style, is because it gives you that purpose and keeps things kind of interesting where you're always working towards something.
Yeah, another thing that I want to bring to everyone's attention too is that you need to be realistic with your goal too. So if you just got done running a half marathon and your mileage pace was, like, for example, Jordan gave a 10-minute mile pace, and you're like, all right, next time I want to run 8-minute mile paces.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That is 2 minutes off each mile. And we just ran a half marathon. So that's 13 miles. So you're cutting off 26 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of time. So unless you're going to do that over a course of a couple years, then fine. And I'm not saying that those things aren't impossible, but do give yourself some realistic goals and realistic expectations. And then as that goal gets, maybe that goal gets easy, then great, let's push for something more challenging, and you can adjust as you go. But it's important to be realistic and set yourself up for success. And then also knowing those different paces is what's going to keep you accountable and hold you accountable for staying at those paces. Because if you're trying to get a 8-minute mile pace, but you can't even run that for a half a mile, then your programming is never going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, basically assess based off of that.
Yeah.
And, we talk about these speed workouts. Again, I want to emphasize that do these speed workouts, choose one of them and start off with once a week. Say you're running 3 times a week right now. One of those workouts is going to be one of the speed workouts that we just talked about. The other 2 are going to be slow aerobic runs. You should be able to somewhat hold a conversation. It's going to be a pace that's pulled back. Not only is that going to help you build endurance, but it's also going to help the recovery aspect of this style of training. Because if you're coming in, you're strength training, you're killing it, you're trying to build muscle and build strength, and you're doing lots of volume, and then you go for these really hard track tempo runs, and then you go to run your distance mile runs, and you're just ripping like a madman, I speak from experience, your body's going to be wrecked. And that's what I did when I started. I'm very competitive. I know you're very competitive too. And we have this nature of I got to beat what I did last time. But running doesn't always have to be everything that we have. And actually, most of the time, it should be a pace that's pulled back to build endurance. But sprinkle in these speed workouts that we talked about today. And that's what's going to help you over time get faster. I'm not saying that you're going to take a minute off your mile pace in 4 weeks. Just saying that use this over time, progress, get better, get used to turning those legs over faster and improve your VO2 max and your anaerobic energy system. And you're going to start to see those mile times start to decrease, decrease, decrease. And then it really gets addicting because you're like, okay, all this hard work that I'm putting in, I'm seeing progress from this.
Yeah, those slower runs are what are going to make you a faster runner, allow you to get more mileage in, keep that heart rate down, which then is going to allow you to give off more energy and more effort in those more challenging run days.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope this podcast was helpful in giving you guys some good ideas for things that you can do to improve as a runner and just overall get faster, because that's what we're all here to do, is just train in this hybrid style and become better and beat what we did yesterday. That's what it's all about. So thanks for tuning in. If you guys have questions, let us know. We love to help out any way that we can. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.